BBC Schools. Christian Focus. In today's broadcast, Leslie Smith and two young people talk with Cindy Kent, the folk singer, about her life and her beliefs.
Who are able to see. There are millions of wonderful things to be found, and most of them going for free. But there's one stipulation that I find. You gotta open your eyes and open your mind. Open your eyes and open your mind. Bum, bum, hey, bum, 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 hey, bum, 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 bum. Seeing is believing. Believe in what you see. The artist of the mountain, the designer of the tree. If you're looking for the answer, if you're searching for the key, I've got to tell you, seeing is believing, and believing what you see.
Seeing is believing. You have to open your eyes, you have to open your mind. Cindy, what were you trying to say in that? What's it all about?
I think people walk around with their eyes shut a bit. Obviously, you do look at things, but I don't think people look deeply enough. I don't think people really see the truth in a lot of things. It's all very much a surface thing that they see. I mean, if you do look around you, there's an awful lot of lovely things going on that some people just miss.
And it's just the lovely things that you're anxious for them to see?
No, I want people to see everything.
Cindy Kent, folk singer, member of the Settlers group, wants people to see everything. But what a person sees may well depend on their point of view. Cindy's point of view is that of a convinced Christian, and it's her point of view which introduces this term's broadcasts, in which we are going to explore some areas of life and try to discover the Christian focus in them. We're beginning with one person's point of view because it's in the individual's life that any religion finds its sharpest focus. And for Cindy, as a Christian, the core of her belief is a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I was joined by Graham, a pupil at a Sussex school, and Judy from a St. Leonard's school, in asking Cindy questions. Judy began.
In your songs, you're trying to show people the truth.
Yes. Not in all the songs, no. Because a lot of songs we do are just ordinary plain old songs that aren't really saying anything except enjoy yourselves, be happy, and, we're just there to entertain you. There are a few songs that we do that have got a deeper message, if you can look for it, yes.
Are those songs of major importance to you in your act as opposed to the rest of the act?
No, they're not. As an entertainer, my job is to entertain people and to make them enjoy themselves or to feel happy, sad, or whatever the song suggests. And if we do it convincingly enough, we hope we get the reaction. But that's as an entertainer. As a Christian, there are certain songs, obviously, that I think are important, and it's nice to put them in. You can't do a whole act of religious songs because people sit there and yawn and don't really want to know. And anyway, that's not what I'm being paid to do in a cabaret club or something like that. It's not really fair to get up and start sort of preaching at an audience completely. They've gone out to enjoy themselves. But I think the odd one slipped in subtly every now and again might just make them stop and think.
Judy?
But do you think when you do include these songs in your shows that the right people hear? And do you think that it's always what you're trying to get across in your songs that they do hear, in those particular songs, that is?
I don't think anybody would ever get converted through listening to one of those songs.
No.
It would be marvellous if that was all that was needed for some people. Maybe it is, I don't know. But I think the majority of people need a little more. What I think these songs are trying to do is really just to get them to think a little bit more. It's not made somebody come up and say, goodness me, I believe in God. That's obviously conclusive proof that there's a God, and I'm going to become a Christian. They would never do that. But it's made them stop and think before they probably say something nasty to their next-door neighbour.
Graham?
Do you think that in some way the gospel folk sort of music that you sing is cheapened by other singers who are not Christians?
I don't think it's cheapened, because I don't think the content can ever be cheapened. No, I mean the message is the same. I don't think it's fair to sort of say anything about people who don't believe, really. An actor is paid to read a script, and he doesn't necessarily have to believe everything that he's saying in that script. I mean, you wouldn't expect somebody to believe every single word that they say, would you? I mean, imagine someone acting Richard III, you know, I mean, you don't really sort of says, look at me with this terrible hunchback. I mean, you don't really think that he believes that. I mean, obviously he doesn't. By the same token, someone can sing, you know, hallelujah, it's all great, it's going to be great in heaven, and not really believe in heaven at all. Leslie, what do you think?
I think there's something offensive about people using religion as a means of entertainment unless they believe what they're saying. That'd be what I'd think.
But what about a person who sings a love song, or about the joys of being in love? That person may not be in love.
No, but they
Does that make it less valid?
They may be yearning to be in love, or they may have been in love.
Ah, well, people who sing all these great religious things may actually be deep down searching to find out the truth.
What did, in the first place, make you want to sing this kind of song and sing at all?
The group that I sing with has been together for 8 years, and I've only been singing for that long, apart from school choirs and that sort of thing, and in the bath. And we've been singing gospel songs ever since the group started, because we do folk songs, and there are a lot of folk songs that have got a sort of gospel flavour to them. And in fact, I mean, the old blues and things like that are very gospel influenced. And so therefore, the group started singing these things purely and simply because, you know, they were part of the kind of songs that we were singing. And when the group started really working properly, we used to do a lot of work on Sundays, and I stopped going to church because it's very difficult to go to church and rush away and get on stage sort of half an hour later. And then, of course, when we did have Sundays free, I used to think, well, it's my one day off, I'm going to rest and do what I like. And so I really stopped going to church. And didn't stop believing, but I didn't really do very much about my belief. I wasn't sort of practising Christianity at the time. Until about 3 years ago, when I started thinking about the whole thing again and realised someone else in show business became a Christian, someone who's equally as busy as myself. And so I've made a big decision that I was going to do something about it. And since then I've really tried to rectify that.
Are you aiming mainly for the younger people with that type of singing?
I try and get to talk to as many young people as I can, because I feel we have a different way of thinking to the older generation, to our parents. And if we're going to sort of be the ones to continue things like church, it's got to change. It can't change completely and utterly and like that. It's got to be a slow change, which it is all the time. It's getting better. And, you know, it's happening very slowly, but at least it's happening. And it's only because young people are saying, look, we're not prepared to accept this. This means nothing to me now. Why should I have to stand there and say all these things that don't really mean anything in this modern age? And so let's make them a bit more relevant to us. And it's slowly changing. I think this is great. And I think the more young people that sort of come onto the inside and stop criticising it from the outside without really doing anything about it, the better off we'll be. Christianity to me is a very relevant thing to my everyday life. Therefore, my church going, or whatever it's called, worshipping God en masse, you know, should be as relevant to my everyday life as I believe Christianity is.
As an agnostic, I find it difficult to see any reason for any of the basic church happenings, worshipping en masse, singing hymns. They don't seem in any way relevant to a belief.
What could be more natural than a whole family getting together, have a big sort of family gathering, and just singing praises to the person that they reckon created them?
Ah, yes, but then there's the question of actual belief.
Ah, well, yes.
I'm not in a position to say I disbelieve, because you can't say you disbelieve, but I find it impossible to actually believe, to accept the fact, well, the claimed fact of a God or any similar being, not even a being, an entity, a force even.
You don't know, I mean, this is unusual. Most people who can't believe, I mean, I can see why a lot of people don't believe in God as a person. This is a big step, I think, for people to believe. But What do you think sort of started it all off? This is always the one that gets me.
Started what off, Cindy?
Well, everything, the world, the whole universe, everything as we know it. What started it off?
Well, why is it necessary to have a fixed starting point? I mean, scientifically, you can reason back through billions of years from what we know of the present state of the universe. But is it absolutely necessary to have a starting point?
Surely everything has a beginning.
Well,
not?
I mean, it's like saying there's a God, you see. You're just saying it has to have a beginning and an end, and I say I can't see any reason why it should have a beginning and an end. You feel that you want to relate to something, therefore you invent something to relate to.
You're suggesting, are you, that Cindy and others have invented a God, you mean?
Well, not in those words, really, but have created
An idea?
An idea, yes.
For those people that believe in God, he isn't a creation. He is something there, something concrete, something you need by which to exist.
A need by which to exist. It's very relevant, yeah. I suppose, yes, it does fulfill a need. It's the sort of whole point of existing in a way. Because I think basically everybody's very selfish. Well, I know I am. If I'm left to my own devices, I'll do anything that's possibly going to be better for me. And I don't, although I suppose I'd like to think that I think about my neighbour, I don't really, until I'm forced into it. I think this is the general attitude of people. I think Christianity, if nothing else, at least makes one a little bit more responsible about one's neighbour's needs. I say a little bit because I'm still not terribly thoughtful about people. But it does mean that because the God I worship has said that we must do these things, I mean, even if for no other reason other than to obey a commandment that you love your neighbour as yourself, which is a very difficult thing to do, even if we only try a little bit, you know, this is the difference it makes to me.
And what things does it make you appreciate in life?
People, really. One tends to take people not quite sort of at face value so much. You tend to look a little bit deeper into people. And whereas, you know, it's very easy to sort of say, oh, she's, you know, pigeonhole people, I think is the term. It's probably makes me look a little bit deeper and maybe see beneath the surface of this kind of exterior.
Graham?
Well, I was wondering whether being a Christian makes you see people in a different light to what a non-Christian person would. I can't see that the way you regard people can be very much different from the way I regard people.
Do you find yourself loving all people, Graham?
I don't think anybody does. I
No, I was asking what you felt. Do you find yourself loving all
certainly
people?
not.
You don't?
Not everybody, no.
Do you find yourself trying to love everyone, or?
Well, yes. That's an aim, really.
You do really try to love people?
Yes. Well, I hope so, anyway.
Do you find yourself loving everyone, Cindy?
No, I think it's impossible, really. Obviously, try. Yeah, that's the emphasis on the word try.
Why do you try to love everyone, Graham?
It's a very good question. It's one I've never really thought about. Must be really basically because we're all members of the human family.
It's really to do unto others as you would be done by,
Yes.
sort of maxim. I believe that God has given me the talents such as I have, and one of those talents is to sing. I just would like to use it to do God's work in some way or another. We should commit ourselves to God completely and utterly. Well, the Bible calls it a living sacrifice, and that sounds terribly sort of sombre and everything, but it really just means that, you know, so if we offer ourselves to God as an entirety, the whole, in every aspect, that is our time, our money, our talents, our whatever we've got, to God, and say to him, look, you use this, you've given it me, you know far more about it than I do, use it for yourself, then this is what I've done with my voice.
Seeing is believing, and believing what you see. The artist of the mountain, the designer of the tree. If you're looking for the answer, if you're searching for the key, I've got to tell you, seeing is believing, and believing what you see.
in that broadcast, Cindy Kent was questioned about her life and beliefs. Next week's programme in the series Christian Focus is called Lookout and is about making a survey of a local community.